did you get your start as a chef?
So I dropped out of journalism school at 18. Turns out there's only like 3 long-form journalism jobs in the world these days, and I wasn't cut out for it. I started cooking as a hobby and quickly fell in love with it in the Seattle area.
What was your first cooking job in the Seattle area?
I worked at a cafe called Serendipity. I made breakfast sandwiches. I got fired because I kept oversleeping and not opening the kitchen.
I think every first chef has a story like that. What about fine dining experience?
So I worked for a couple more higher volume restaurants, and then I went to culinary school at Seattle Culinary Academy. And after that, I worked for the chef in the hat, Thierry Rodereau, who's a French chef, like literally started cooking when he was 14, told me all sorts of stories of getting like beat up by his chefs. And then he came over here and started a restaurant group. And then I worked for Maria Hines, who's also a James Beard Award winner, and she had the 2nd certified organic restaurant in the whole country.
When was your last cooking job?
So I left the industry at 25 after 7 years. I was convinced that there was no sustainable way to have a great business and take care of your team and do good food. And I was pretty convinced that I was never coming back. And over the kind of 5 years between then and when Mark and I opened Square Pie Guys, I put together a hypothesis of a better way, and here we are today trying it out.
That's a great story. Danny,
Thank you.
have you ever watched Top Chef?
I have seen every episode of Top Chef.
Okay, so you might be familiar with the tasting format in Top Chef.
I am.
So we're doing a collaboration with Diaspora Co., as you know.
Yes.
It's going to be a delicious cacio e pepe pizza. We would love to see if you can identify the Diaspora Aranya pepper.
Okay, great. Let's try it.
All
Aranya.
right.
All right, let's go for it. So number one, I don't do a huge amount of spice taste testing, but generally I like to start with just visual appearance. How fresh does it look? Is the color consistent? This is a ground peppercorn, so it's going to be a little hard to tell what the outside looked like, but just kind of taking an overall appearance, visual appearance, does it appeal to me? I smell it. What I love about pepper is it's such a great kind of contrasting flavor. And so, for this one, I'm really getting some of like that funkier note of the pepper. I'm getting that like kind of like lemony flavor going on. Once I've smelled it, taste it, try not to blow my palate out because I got 4 more to go. So the heat is definitely what I get first. It finishes with a little bit of like almost peppermint, a little bit of lemon, and certainly that kind of like back end acidity that you get from a raw untoasted peppercorn. All right, so number 2. So this smell, I'm getting a little bit cleaner, maybe like more like wintry, kind of like piney. Keep getting it in my nose, which is not what I want to do. It's also fat, like ground a little bit finer. I don't know if that was on us or this pepper is just easier to grind. Okay, so this is interesting. So this pepper is ground more, and so you would think it would actually have a more intense flavor, but I'm assuming it's a little bit more dried out and it's maybe lower quality. And so the flavor is less pungent than the first one that I just tried. Definitely getting the heat, definitely getting that kind of like back end bitterness. The pininess is showing through. And this one feels probably a little bit more stale. All right, so number 3. So, the first thing I'll say is of all of these 4 peppers, this one certainly has the darkest kind of color on the inside. It looks maybe a little bit moister, a little bit fresher. The smell is a lot deeper and more complex, almost getting like fig notes, fruitiness, certainly like dried plum. And it has this like warmth. It smells like, not like a campfire, but it makes me think I'm at a campfire. Really interesting stuff. And it just looks cool. All right, here I go. Yeah, so there's this really satisfying crunch. I don't know if this was toasted or not, but it's a lot nuttier. The texture is a little bit firmer for me. It doesn't just hit you with the heat. I don't know if when you were a kid, you dump the stuff on the table at the diner out, but that's just pure heat. This has such Amazing depth of flavor. There's those citrus notes. It does have a little bit of that background acidity, but it feels very balanced and kind of almost fatty and really enjoyable. So number 4. Okay, so this has almost no palate. Like, I don't smell anything on it. I don't know if it's a smaller sample size, if it's ground finer. Certainly not as interesting. Taste-wise, just fully stale, kind of boring. Not a lot of heat, not a lot of complexity to it. You know, this is the McCormick kind of like tin bottle that you would sprinkle out at a diner. So this one fails.
All right, Chef Stoller, you've tasted through the peppercorn. Are you ready to identify which of the 4 is what we have on the table?
Yeah, if I can have some milk after.
We'll see about that.
Okay. So I think I have a pretty good idea of the one we're using because we did a lot of testing with it. But I'll just go 1 through 4. So using a little bit of deductive reasoning, you know, I'm pretty sure that of the 3 that are on the table that are kind of like more commercially available, this is probably on the higher end. And I would say that probably number 1 or 2 were my favorite. So I'm gonna say this was number 2. Just kind of based on my understanding, I think, is this actually McCormick brand? I think I referenced that. So I'm gonna place that on number 4. And then this is, not sure, I assume it's from a fancy market or maybe it's greenwashed, but either way, I think this is number 1. And I'm just fully convinced that based on its nuttiness, the incredible appearance, the fruitiness in the palate, that this is the Aranya peppercorn from Diaspora Spice. Should we try it?
All right, you can flip them over to find out if you're right.
Okay.
So did you guess 1?
No. I did guess 2. I guessed 3, and I didn't guess 4. Interesting.
All right.
But I will say, this is incredible peppercorn. But if you're making crappy sausage gravy, all of this would work. So just want to put that.
And if you're making a cacio e pepe?
I would say probably the Aranya peppercorn is my pick for sure.
That sounds good. Well, you certainly got the peppercorn. Thanks for playing Top Chef Square Pie Guys with us.
Thanks for having me at the place where I work.
Hey, why are you doing it like that?
Dude, it's like the TK. You know that Thomas Keller, he like puts the little Peugeot on the plate and just grinds it and he pulls it off perfectly and you see the like nice little hole.
No, but I'm so glad to be educated about this.
Yeah, it's really important. Like, it's going to change everything about how you present food at your French restaurant.